What's up, guys? My name's Dean, or as most of you know me, Twissy, and there is one round of the home and away season to go. Round 23. Let's take a look, because this is a big round. Pretty much every game except one means something, so let's go through that. Starting with tonight, the biggest of them all, which sets the stage for the entire weekend. Adelaide versus the West Coast Eagles. The Crows, with a win, I think they secure top spot on the ladder, or they secure a top 2 finish pretty much if they win in this one. Now, if they lose, they can they drop out of the top 4? Yes, they can drop out of the top 4. The Giants could leapfrog them into and put them down to 5th. So they wouldn't want to lose this one. West Coast also, if they win this one, possibly a very slim chance at a top 4 spot, but very, very unlikely for the West Coast Eagles, but a definite home final if they win this game. Now, the changes. Henderson and Alice Yeoman in for the Crows, with Rory Sloane huge out with 1 week suspension. I don't even understand why he got suspended. AFL is dumb. They've got no consistency whatsoever. And Brodie Smith out with concussion. Alright, that's the Crows. The Eagles, Barras and Giles come in, and Nat Nui, the huge out there, doing his ACL last week, the knee injury, and Nelson also out of that side, has been dropped. So this is the match that sets up the entire weekend. I have no idea which way it's going to go. It's at the Adelaide Oval. That's the only reason I can pick the Crows here. I just think the West Coast, they haven't been superb away. The only team they beat was the Giants, who probably got a little bit ahead of themselves. But I think that Adelaide are the real deal. Rory Sloane or not, they should win this game and finish in the top 2. So Adelaide tonight, if they win, it makes everything interesting. But if they lose, it makes it all the more interesting and just makes the entire weekend crazy. Then you've got Geelong and Melbourne Saturday afternoon, or the early time slot at Simmons Stadium. Bartel, Caddy and Menzel in for the Cats, bringing in the big guns here. Kirsten, Lang and Henderson out for that side. Henderson, the big out there with a knee, got some surgery this week. Whether or not he's back for the finals, not quite sure yet. So he might be back finals week 2, but they're hoping to get him back for week 1 of the finals there. For the D's, Garlett, Salem and Harms in for Oliver, Neil Bullen and Mitchie have all been dropped from that team after the loss of Carlton last week. And now, if Melbourne win this game and North Melbourne lose, then you can pretty much say that Melbourne have killed their finals chances by losing to Essendon. And, that's pretty much it. Geelong should win at home. They're playing for a top 4 spot as well. They got to win to make sure they stay inside that top 4. So win is critical for them. A loss, they don't want to have that. That'll drop them out of the top 4. Need the win. Next game means a little bit for the bottom of the ladder now. The wooden spoon, potentially. If the Bombers beat Carlton here and Brisbane get thumped by the Saints, there is in the realm of possibilities that the Lions could win the wooden spoon, get a priority pick, and pick 1 and 2. So, or pick 1 and 3, I think it would be. But the Bombers here got a few changes against the Blues. Goddard, Dempsey, Conger and McKernan in. Jamar, Azario, Fantasia out with a groin injury, big out there. And Stokes and Adam Cooney both retired last week to play their last games. So there's some big outs there in Fantasia, Stokes and Cooney for the Bombers there. But Goddard's, I guess, the big one back in for them. And for the Blues, they've got Kerridge and Silvani coming in. Everett's been omitted, and Curnow is out with the knee injury. So the Blues, they had a good win last week. Can they back it up now against a side they should beat in the Bombers? A side they should beat. They wouldn't want to lose this one. We definitely don't want to lose this one. Saturday afternoon now. Saturday twilight, actually. At the SCG. Sydney take on Richmond. The Swans have had their issues against the Tigers in the past, but they should win this one quite convincingly and assure themselves of first place on the ladder. Kieran Jack and Harrison Marsh come into that side. Towers and Mills, big out there with the calf injury. They're just priming him for finals, I assure you. And for the Tigers, Mabior Chol to make his debut for Connor Menadue, who gets dropped from the team after last week's performance. But Mabior Chol, going to be an exciting machine. Excitement. excitement machine. I wonder if they're going to, like, he's been a bit of a swingman in the VFL. I wonder if they're going to put him in the forward line and have a little bit of a Lear versus Marbier Chol action, kind of like the Dorf versus Chol action last week. Might be interesting. It'll definitely play out itself. But the Swans to win that one. The only game that doesn't matter for the week, Gold Coast and Port Adelaide, regardless of who wins, nothing changes in the ladder. So who gives a stuff about this one? You can look at the changes if you'd like. I think Port had a pretty good performance in the derby last week, or the showdown. Jesus, called it the wrong thing, Dean. In the showdown last week, they should win. But yeah, they should win. But you never know with the Gold Coast. They've been pretty good as well this season. Pretty good by the Gold Coast. All right, forget that game. Moving on to another game that does matter. This could be all kinds of implications. Home finals here on the line. You've also got, nothing on the line for North Melbourne. Win, lose or draw, they stay in the same spot. So, McDonald and Higgins in for North. Thompson out with the adductor and McKenzie out. So, that's a big out there, Scott Thompson, especially with the Giants forward line. Patton, Cameron, Smith, Johnson, they're everywhere, the Giants forward. So, they're going to, and even Lobb. So, they're going to struggle defensively, I think, North Melbourne. Ferrito will probably have to take, number 2 defender. Patton's going to be the big hard matchup, I reckon, for them this weekend. So we'll see how the North Melbourne go against this Giants team. No changes for them. They are priming for September action. A win could see them jump into the top 4 if a couple of other teams lose. A loss could see them lose a home final completely. Obviously, that determines whatever happens at Friday night's game with the Adelaide and the West Coast. If the West Coast win, then they must win to keep a home final. They lose, goodbye home final. Okay, well, if West Coast lose, then Giants already have that home final. So GWS more on the line in this one. They could definitely set themselves up with a top 4 chance here and a place to sort of charge into that final series. So I'm going with the Giants to beat North Melbourne, who got rid of 4 blokes this week. Boomer, Petrie, Dell, and Ferrito, and Spud. So I think that they're dumb in doing that. I think Boomer Harvey, the other 3 I can kind of understand. Petrie showed signs of age. Ferrito looks like he's on his last legs at times. And who was the other one? Dalsano's sort of he's been a consistent performer, but hasn't really done it the entire season. He's kind of just come out the last couple of weeks. So I think Harvey's probably the more interesting one here, because if you've still got blokes like Nahas and Farron Ray, if you're saying they're the youth that are missing out on a game, which I don't think they are, then it just still bemuses me. Like, he kicked 3 goals last week and had 30 touches. I don't see any other player on their list that can do that except Daniel Wells. And it just, maybe Zeeble, but they're in all sorts of trouble, North Melbourne. Moving on to Sunday's games, we got the Saints and the Lions. This does mean something, as I said, for the Wooden Spoon. If Brisbane gets smoshed in this one, if the Bombers win, of course, then that sets up this one to be an interesting one. Otherwise, it's just poop. But Fisher comes in. I hope he gets another year, Sam Fisher. Really, really good player for the Saints. White comes in. Is he making his debut? White? I think he is. Brandon White making his debut for the Saints. Sinclair and Pearce on that extended bench for St Kilda. And then you got Paddy McCartan out with that collarbone injury. So there'll still be at least 2 changes there for the Saints with White and Fisher, the 2 ins to that team. But McCartan sort of went down low last week. Got a free kick, which he shouldn't have got. But broke his collarbone in the process. So sometimes it doesn't pay to slide in there and try and win the ball. And for the Lions, they got Trent West, Jansen, Dawson, and Smith coming into that team, and Jackson Payne out with a shin injury. So Saints should win this one. It's at Etihad Stadium, 1:10 on Sunday. They should win and win comfortably. I would think so. Now let's keep going. 2 matches to go. This one is going to be critical, regardless of which way you look at it. If the ladder is exactly the same way it is right now, and the Giants lose, the Eagles lose, and the Dogs could actually. If the Giants lose, the Eagles lose, the Hawks lose, the Dogs could actually jump into that top 4, and that would be the biggest surprise, I think, of them all this week. And they need all the results to go their way, but I think Hawthorn, we'll go through the matchup. Here we got Showmakers, Fitzpatrick, Pitternet, and Lovell coming into that team for Segler, who did his ACL last week. Big miss for them, the Hawks. Not as big as Naknui, but big miss indeed. And for the Pies, Cloak comes in, McCaffer, Goldsack, and Witts into that squad. Darcy Moore out with the hamstring injury, so he's done for the year. Yeah, this makes up a very interesting matchup because Hawthorn need a win to stay in the top 4, but Collingwood, they've sort of been okay the last few weeks, I think. Well, they had a huge win last week, so if they can bring the form they did last week into this week's game, obviously it's a different class of opponent, they could cause issues for the Hawks, and you never know with Hawthorn, they could just not rock up. And then maybe they don't want to finish in the top 4 because they want to play 4 weeks in a row instead of one game in 3 weeks. Who even knows what's going on in their heads? They should win this one though, Hawthorn. They've had the wood over the Pies the last 8 matches, so they should win it. And I'll be surprised if they don't. But I think the Hawks should win it. And the final game, Pavlich's farewell game. Dawson, Pavlich, Sandilands, Mzungu, and De Boer into the squad for the Dockers. Surprised Barlow isn't playing. He's still in the waffle. He won't be at Fremantle next year anyway. And then Collins and Clark dropped from that team. For the Dogs, a number of changes as well. Dale Morris, Will Minson, Matty Suckling, Tom Campbell, Kobe Stevens, and Williams into that squad of 25 with Roughhead, Smith, and Wood all out of that team. And look at that. They've had 6 inclusions to their best 25. No Drake Stringer. So whether Stringer plays in the elimination final or the qualifying final in 2 weeks' time will be a very interesting prospect. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I think the Dogs should win this one. With results falling their way, they're in the top 4. If they don't fall their way, they might not get a home final, but if West Coast lose, they should still get a home final. So that's the most likely scenario here, is the Dogs finishing in 6, getting a home final against the Eagles week 1 of finals. But there is just so much to play out this weekend before we can get to that result. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Leave a big thumbs up if you did, and make sure to subscribe to get all the finals previews and things like that over here. It's going to be a crazy, crazy finals series. I cannot wait. I'll see you guys later.